Good morning, everyone. It is that appointed time, and so we will call the meeting to order. And I want to thank you for joining us here today. We do have participation virtually, so we will be doing roll call votes for all of our voting today. And I'm going to start by asking Tammy to call the roll.
Thank you. Baker.
Here.
Thank you. Beckman.
Here.
Norton.
Here.
Schubring.
Here.
Tyne.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
And Chair Wheelock.
Here. Thank you. And next, I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm
roll
sorry.
call.
I'm sorry. I just announce it and then revert to my old bad habits.
That's all right.
Tammy, would you call the roll?
Baker.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
And Wheelock.
Aye.
Thank you.
Tammy, next, is there a motion to approve the minutes from our February meeting?
So moved.
A
Second.
second? And would you call the roll?
Baker.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. Fantastic. So we're now at the agenda item for the public comments, and I'd like to open the public comment period. For anyone that's going to speak, we would ask that you state your name and keep your comments to about a couple of minutes, but feel free to address the room.
Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Johnson, Mayo Clinic and Nucleus Radiopharma. I am a nuclear medicine physician and radiologist at Mayo, former chair of nuclear medicine. I remember talking to Mr. Baker when we presented what was going to become Nucleus at the Mayo Clinic board, and he said that's really hard to do, and we said it's something we need to do. Appreciate the support there. I want to thank the Destination Medical Center team here, friends old and new, for more than a decade of work that has really enabled us to build out what is now Nucleus Radiopharma. And we manufacture radiopharmaceutical therapies for cancer care. This is an exploding field. It is driving a whole new forefront in cancer care that is low toxicity, and we're going after every kind of cancer you can think of in the drug pipeline. We have drugs right now that can go after brain tumors, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, small bowel tumors that are in the clinic. And the field is exploding with over 100 new companies in 5 years, and the talent pool is tiny. So, at 3 years old, we are successful. We're in Destination Medical Center 2. We are making revenue. We have 6 contracts. We're expanding out into other sites in the U.S. and securing the supply chain and development of these new technologies, including ones coming out of Mayo Clinic. As we go forward, it is very clear to us, and the ask has come forward from us to Destination Medical Center for assistance in training programs, because the field of expertise in manufacturing radiopharmaceuticals is not, the training is not there, the programs are not there. This afternoon, I'm actually meeting with the University of Missouri that has a nuclear reactor where they produce some of the radionuclides that we put in these drugs. They're also an investor in Nucleus, together with Mayo Clinic and Nucleus, to help build some of those programs. We have a collaboration with the University of Minnesota that we're working on that's not announced yet. And we absolutely need space and growth and opportunities there. I would add that the Nuclear Medicine Technologist program that Mayo has is in collaboration with the University of Minnesota here in Rochester. And we've got a number of people who work in this field. The people come through this training can work at Nucleus, they can work at Mayo, University of Minnesota, hospitals, nuclear pharmaceutical companies like Cardinal Health, PetNet, et cetera, that are all in Minnesota. And briefly introduce my partner here, our VP of Operations at Nucleus, who can comment on the specific types of people, if you have any questions there, that we need.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Glenn. Like Dr. Johnson said, I am the VP of Operations for Nucleus. I've been in this industry my entire career, but when I joined this industry, I had no idea what this industry was. Right? That seems to be a common theme across this entire industry. We need to work as a group here to make sure that we can teach our young folks coming out of high school, college, and so forth what this industry is and why it's so important, and how we can impact the public and how we can help those who need it most. In order to do that, we're going to need funding. We're going to need space in order to create those programs, even at the high school level, introducing students to what this is and how we can influence those towards this meaningful career path. There's places like Purdue University, Missouri University as well, who have curriculum that's already in place, but working with the University of Minnesota, for example, and putting in a program for manufacturing of these radiopharmaceuticals would be a great path forward for us. So I look forward to working with you all and coming up with ways in order for us to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, very exciting, and I think a great example of exactly what our orientation is in this next decade about workforce development and innovation in our community and new business development. So we really appreciate your time here today.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Pam, and
Congratulations.
thank you for your support, everybody, the partnership.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals seeking to address the board? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Okay, moving on, we have the chair's report, and we have a long agenda today, and so I will briefly touch on just a few things. First, I will remind the group that the executive committee did meet in the month of March to review the annual report on private investment and approve it so that we could submit it to DEED by April 1st, which is our annual deadline. At that meeting, we reported that more than $2 billion in private investment has been achieved, a figure reached by 2025's record-setting private investment, in no small part with the Mayo investment. Coming back to today, our agenda is quite full with several proposed capital projects being presented for our consideration. We will talk about those more when those agenda items come up. And then just for our reminder, but especially for the public information, at the close of this meeting, we'll be joined by the Olmsted County Board of Commissioners, the Rochester City Council, and the DMC EDA Board for our annual joint meeting. And we will convene just across the hall for that. Members of the public are welcome to join us down the hall for that convening, and then we will have a tour and then come back to the facility for discussion. Looking ahead to the remaining meetings of the year, we want to talk a little bit about, to really pick up on some of the discussions that the EDA board had started at the beginning of the year, and discussions about how do we really progress in the goals that we've set out for ourselves, and to make sure that we have a seamless accomplishment of everything that we need to do on our side to achieve the Mayo expansion. What does growth look like? How do we strategically think about our next decade? And other longer range and bigger picture issues. So what we have asked EDA staff to do is really tee up for our discussions at our fall and early winter meetings, a similar review and discussion for the DMC board. We are also going to spend some time acknowledging the chair of the EDA board's accomplishments and contribution, and to acknowledge and welcome the new EDA chair of the EDA board. And so we will get to that agenda item very soon. But we have a few things before that, and so I'll conclude my report, and then we'll move on to the annual election and appointment of officers. Now, before I do that, could I ask Tammy to remind both the board and the members of the public that are viewing this about any of the officer requirements in state law or in our bylaws?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the selection of our officers is something that is governed by both state statute and our own governing documents. The most important, we have several items listed up here, but the most important thing for you to keep in mind is that the state law requires the chair be selected from those members of the board who are the state appointees. So as you consider your officers for the year, we need to have a chair and then our other officers that are allowed in our bylaws, but that the chair should be one of the state appointees.
Thank you.
Great.
Are there any nominations for the board?
Madam Chair, I'd like to
Mr. Williams.
move the following slate of officers and terms. Member Wheelock as chair, Mayor Norton as vice chair until the conclusion of her term at the end of the calendar year, and then pivoting to Council President Schubring effective January 1st, 2027 until our next scheduled elections, and then Commissioner Tyne as treasurer. I'd make that motion.
So moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I'll call the
Seeing
roll.
none, Tammy, would you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you. There are two appointed positions, the secretary position and the assistant treasurer position. And for those appointed positions, I am appointing member Beckman as secretary and city finance director Brian Anderson as assistant treasurer. So I'm not sure if Brian is in the audience. Can you stand and just let people see you since you have a big agenda item here today? So thank you for your service in those roles to the two of you as well. Next, we have the consent agenda. There is a resolution authorizing the EDA as agent for trademark licensing on behalf of DMCC included in the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Tammy, would you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Wheelock.
Aye. Next item is the EDA Board President comments. So I'll invite both Dr. Otley and Dr. Katie Arndt to join us at the table. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome. Many times have you sat in that seat, and the first time for Dr. Arndt for you today. So I hope it's comfortable, because get used to it.
Thank you,
Dr.
Chair
Otley.
Wheelock, members of the board. I'd like to highlight a few items that you will be considering today, and then offer a few reflections as I finish my tenure as president of the DMC EDA Board. Today, you'll hear reports and recommendations related to advancing our common vision, including talent and training infrastructure led by the University of Minnesota Rochester, advancing neighborhood and downtown infrastructure in sync with Mayo Clinic's Bold Forward Unbound construction, improvements to and systems to support activation of Peace Plaza and other downtown spaces, and continued progress on our Link bus rapid transit system. I will note, while all these projects are coming forward with DMC EDA Board authorization, we did convey to our staff reservations and future expectations related to two of these items for different reasons. As you will hear, additional repairs are needed in Peace Plaza, a result of either poor design, improper engineering, or construction problems. We conveyed to the staff, while we are prepared to recommend this particular request to the DMCC board, we do not imagine advancing further requests to fix construction shortcomings in the future. We are also advancing a request to support infrastructure known as Meridian Gates, which secure public spaces during events, festivals, and large public gatherings. The EDA board cautions staff against DMC's involvement in or responsibility for operations-related infrastructure. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and recommendations on those and other agenda topics. Now, in reflecting on the past 10 years, I would like to share the following observations. First, the DMC mission is outstanding. Strengthening Rochester, Minnesota as America's City for Health in support of the world's premier destination medical center through proactive, thoughtful, and collaborative planning and development is a winning strategy. Second, the execution has been excellent. This is the result of the DMC method. Proactive strategic planning, great people with a common vision, processes and resources aimed at creating uniquely thoughtful and positive outcomes, excellent communication, and plain old hard work. Third, the results have been remarkable, including $2 billion in private investment with $5 billion more in progress, supported by $277 million of public investment, more than $1.6 billion in tax revenue, creation of over 390,000 square feet of space dedicated to research and innovation in Discovery Square, and the upcoming opening of BioLabs Rochester. Creation of 17,500 good-paying jobs, an astonishing 47% increase over 10 years. Expansion of our thriving downtown with a 100% increase in housing units, renovation of 15 vacant or blighted blocks, and creation of beautiful public spaces. and an incredible 300% increase in the size of our graduating class of UMR, the future of our workforce, and a highly collaborative construction of critical infrastructure adjacent to Mayo Clinic's Unbound project to ensure a seamless and world-class experience as our patients, families, and citizens move between their personal and medical lives. The magnitude and breadth of DMC accomplishments is truly unparalleled. Finally, I would like to note that none of this would be possible without the vision and selfless hard work of the amazing people and organizations across our city and state. To you, our DMCC board, and our amazing leader, Pam Wheelock, for your visionary guidance and leadership, my deep appreciation. To our colleagues at the city and county for their collaboration and excellent execution of many complicated plans. To the citizens and leaders of the great state of Minnesota for demonstrating what caring for each other means. To Mayo Clinic for their commitment to advancing healthcare for the most serious problems we face. To our DMC EDA board, such a wonderful group of colleagues with a combination of practicality and wisdom. To our DMC EDA staff, an amazing group of people working every day to bring to reality DMC's vision of America's City for Health. And to Patrick Sieb, the Executive Director of DMC EDA, who makes look easy what is a very difficult job. With that, I'd like to introduce my close colleague, Dr. Katie Arndt, who will succeed me as president of the DMC EDA board tomorrow. Dr. Arndt is an obstetric anesthesiologist taking care of our moms and their babies during the most critical moment of life. She is Mayo Clinic's Associate Medical Director for Bold Forward Unbound in Rochester, and she is a gem of a person and colleague. Dr. Arndt is a Mayo physician through and through, passionate about providing world-class healthcare today and creating even better healthcare tomorrow. She is committed to our community, eager to collaborate on a great second decade and beyond for DMC in our city. She is a genuine and compassionate person. You will love working with her. DMC is very important to me, and so I feel very lucky that Dr. Arndt will be leading the board. With that, I'd like to invite Dr. Arndt to make a few comments. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Arndt. Please proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Otley. Madam Chair, members of the DMCC board, thank you for the opportunity to offer a few comments. I want to begin by thanking Dr. Otley for his years of leadership and service to DMC. I am grateful for the example he has set, and I am honored to follow him as president of the DMC EDA board. I also recognize this moment as a passing of the baton in a long race. DMC began with and retains an ambitious vision for Rochester as America's City for Health. I come to this effort as a Mayo Clinic physician, as the Associate Medical Director of Bold Forward Unbound in Rochester, and as a longtime Rochester resident. I moved here in 1998. My husband was born at St. Mary's Hospital. My children are the 6th generation of Arndts in this area. I care deeply about the future of Rochester, Minnesota. I will put my commitment and my experience to work as DMC's partners to deliver the public infrastructure investments needed to achieve our goals. You can count on us to provide thoughtful, independent, strategic advice in service to your mission and to the public value this initiative must provide. To do that well, I hope that the DMCC board will continue to call on us to test assumptions, translate strategy into implementation choices, bring you options, name trade-offs, and clarify where DMC investment can produce the greatest public value. We see ourselves as a strategic advisory partner, and I understand that we work for you. Already, I'm grateful to Clark and to Patrick, the EDA staff, and my board colleagues for encouraging and equipping me to seamlessly enter and engage with a broad and fast-moving body of work. I look forward to working with you. We will advance DMC's next phase with care, with discipline, and with ambition. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And it is inevitable that on a long journey like this, there will be a passing of baton. And while we will miss Dr. Otley, we welcome and are excited about our future and working with you, Dr. Arndt. And my thanks to both of you for being here today.
Thank you.
We do have some additional business related to that, which is a commendation for Dr. Otley. And before entertaining a motion and opening up the floor for comments, I want to read this, and I'm going to invite you to just settle back because it's going to take a few minutes, and we are indeed going to read it in its entirety into the record. And that would not be the right one, so excuse me. Commending
It's the one that's
Dr.
2 sentences long. Go with that.
Commending Dr. Clark C. Otley and expressing gratitude and appreciation for his service to the Destination Medical Center initiative. Whereas the Destination Medical Center Corporation, the DMCC, was established by law in 2013 to exercise oversight, adopt plans, and approve projects as part of an initiative by the state of Minnesota to sustain Mayo Clinic and the city of Rochester, Minnesota as the world's premier destination medical center. And whereas the Destination Medical Center Economic Development Agency, the DMC EDA, is charged with implementing the Destination Medical Center initiative through strategic leadership, business development, and coordination among public and private partners. And whereas Dr. Clark C. Otley has served the DMC EDA Board of Directors for more than a decade, including as its president, providing sustained leadership across multiple phases of the DMC's initiatives development and execution. And whereas during this period, the DMC initiative has advanced from early planning and district formation to a demonstrated model of public-private partnership, generating substantial private investment, supporting significant job growth, and contributing to Rochester's emergence as a more diversified and innovation-oriented economy. And whereas throughout these phases, Dr. Otley has contributed to the governance, strategic direction, and institutional alignment necessary to sustain long-term progress, helping ensure continuity of purpose as conditions, priorities, and implementation strategies evolved over time. And whereas Dr. Otley's leadership has supported the advancement of Discovery Square from an initial concept into an active and growing health innovation district, including efforts related to business recruitment, infrastructure development, and the continued maturation of an innovation ecosystem connected to Mayo Clinic. And whereas during a period marked by significant external disruption, including the COVID-19 pandemic and shifting market conditions, Dr. Otley helped guide the organization in adapting its strategies to support economic resilience, downtown vitality, and continued forward progress on key initiatives. And whereas as the DMC initiative reached its 10-year milestone and undertook the 5-year update to the development plan, Dr. Otley played an important role in shaping the transition to a more focused strategic framework, including the prioritization of accelerating health innovation as a defining element of DMC's next phase. And whereas through his service, Dr. Otley has contributed to strengthening the collaborative relationships among the DMC EDA, the DMCC, the City of Rochester, Olmsted County, Mayo Clinic, and other partners, reinforcing the governance model that underpins the initiative's long-term success. Whereas Dr. Otley's tenure reflects a sustained commitment to the responsible innovation of the DMC initiative and to advancing Rochester's position as America's city for health and an emerging center for health innovation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Destination Medical Center Corporation Board of Directors, the board, that it commends Dr. Clark C. Otley for his dedicated service and leadership on the DMC EDA Board of Directors. And be it further resolved that the board expresses its sincere gratitude and appreciation for his long-standing contributions to the advancement of the DMC EDA and to the broader Destination Medical Center initiatives. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there other comments before I call for a vote? Member Norton.
Well, I wanted to just say thank you for all you've done. The resolution covers a lot of what you've done and your work, but your dedication and commitment to not just the city of Rochester as a whole, which you have always been committed to Rochester, but your work with the DMC EDA to do what's right, to do what the law asked us to, and to try really hard to follow the letter of the law. And the commitment to our downtown has just been exemplary. So I've appreciated to be able to work with you over these last few years. You will be missed, but to your point, you have handed it off to a very wonderful and strong leader in Dr. Arndt, and we look forward to working with her. But thank you again for all you've done for Rochester.
Member Williams.
Well, I would just echo everything that is in the resolution. I always appreciated your openness and your curiosity and your comments to me after meetings about questions that I had raised. You lead with graciousness and curiosity, and I really appreciated that and saw that, and also appreciate the delicate role that the representatives, Dr. Arndt, you too, will now be in that role of being kind of that liaison between community and Mayo and the board here. And so just really appreciate what you brought to that and how you brought that leadership.
Thank you.
Member Schubring.
Well, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Otley wearing my former Mayo Clinic hat now in this role, and I just want to commend you for your focus on community engagement and your relationship building, and also the compassion and empathy that you've shown that I think exemplifies what Mayo Clinic is, and your rootedness in Rochester and caring about this city. And I just have to say that the EDA board must say, we have a good thing, let's do it again, because Dr. Arndt shares all of those same qualities. And so thank you, Dr. Otley, and looking forward to working with you, Dr. Arndt.
Member Baker.
Yes, thank you. Well, I want to just say, Dr. Otley, I've been incredibly impressed with how you've handled your role over these years. You mentioned in your remarks, common agenda. And I think that's the heart of it, that you helped make sure that we did have a common agenda. There's a lot I think this whole group has to be proud of, but it takes all participants to make it work, and it honestly take one to make it not work. 10 years is a long period of service. You've got to be incredibly proud of what's been accomplished over that period of time. And the one thing I've always been amazed with at Mayo is its collaborative culture, and you embody that every day. So thank you for all that. And I would just say, Minnesota, Olmsted, Rochester, and Mayo are incredibly proud of all that you've brought to the table here. You have done an amazing job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Otley, it is that appointed time where you will make this transition. And of course, we knew the day would come. And not surprisingly, Mayo Clinic is populated by exemplary talent. And we're very delighted to have you here, Dr. Arndt. And we will, someday the board chair will be making comments of gratitude to you as well, but I hope that's a very long time for now. And Dr. Otley, I just have to say, you have been, for me, an incredible partner. This work has been kind of build it as you build the plane as you fly the plane, and there's a lot of inputs and perspectives and competing opportunities to sort through, and you have done that with a collaborative and wise and generous approach. It is a challenge to keep multiple perspectives in focus and moving in the same direction, and you have been a great partner in that effort. I cannot imagine the level of productivity that you have in your day. It is amazing about your ability to balance your responsibilities to your patients as a healthcare provider and to manage your obligations and commitments and interests in your personal life, given the intent that you have around making a contribution to this work, and you have delivered on that intent. And I just want to note, too, my deep appreciation for your capability and commitment to supporting, encouraging, and helping to develop and lead the EDA staff team. That is an incredibly precious resource. It is easier to maybe chair a board meeting than it is to care for the real capacity of an organization to do the work. And I know that they have counted on you, relied on you, and received tremendous support from you in your role as chair. And I want to acknowledge that and thank you very specifically for that.
Thank you.
Now with that, we will take the roll, and I'll ask Tammy to take the vote.
Thank you. Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Chair Wheelock.
Aye. Congratulations. Please, Dr. Otley and Dr. Arndt, can you just stay for another moment, because I neglected to ask our EDA Executive Director if there are any additional comments that he would like to make, and I'm sure there are some.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I was prepared for the fact that you may that you may have forgotten to ask me.
Very close.
And I had another place on the agenda where I was going to insert my comments. And I think, Pam, the comment you made at the end in terms of the way in which Dr. Otley executed his role as board president was both as a very, very effective chair of the board itself and ran meetings with efficiency, and it made other board members feel like their voices were heard and their time was valued and was measured. And all of that was incredible and great. But what he really delivered on, and the expectation we have for you, Dr. Arndt, is the level of care and concern he had for us as staff, the attention he paid to our team, recognizing, as you all do, the amount of work that doesn't come forward in an agenda because it is just simply working, and knowing that that doesn't happen by accident. And he would make a point of acknowledging everybody for their contributions and the detail of their work, and it meant a lot, and it made the team more effective and more enthusiastic and more committed. And I just want to say that publicly, and I want to thank you publicly for that.
And I think Member Norton would like to add an additional comment.
I did. I mentioned earlier about Dr. Arndt's commitment to the city of Rochester, and I'm not sure people realize this, but there are community events, many of them, in the city of Rochester. And I'm sorry, Dr. Otley. I see Dr. Otley at those events, and it is rare that you see someone that does as much as you do for the city show up at public events too. And I just want to note that. I think it's super important that when we have community events and you look out, I see Dr. Otley, and perhaps Dr. Arndt will follow suit, because I know it's a big lift with all that you do in your private practice and with DMC EDA, but because you're at those events, you understand this community in a richer way. And I would ask that, and I see that of many of our members. It really helps in decision-making when you're at the events and you see the community. You did that for us, and I just want to acknowledge that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to actually invite Chris Shadd to come forward as well. And we don't have a nameplate for you, but why don't you come and sit by Patrick? Our commendations have typically been reserved for those individuals who directly serve the board, but as you just heard, there is a deep, qualified, and committed team behind each of these boards and the work that they do. Chris has been a member of our team, provided by Mayo Clinic as contribution to our work since 2017, and has been integral to that work. From Discovery Square to our pandemic recovery efforts to the EDA's administration of the Main Street Grant Program. His experience as both a scientist and an entrepreneur have served us well, but he is retiring from Mayo in a little over a month and will be stepping away from DMC. And before he goes, I want to take this opportunity to thank him for his service to Mayo Clinic, Shirley, and perhaps even more specifically, his nearly decade-long support of the DMC initiative, and really your commitment to southeastern Minnesota and to its prosperity and economic vitality. So we want to, on behalf of our full board, thank you, Chris, and wish you the best of luck, and we hope that our paths cross with you in your state of retirement.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for being here. Next on our agenda is consideration of a funding recommendation related to Discovery Square Workforce Development Space, and it's been proposed by the University of Minnesota Rochester. And for members of the board, you will recall that University President Dr. Rebecca Cunningham, joined by Chancellor Carroll, presented their vision for the Rochester campus at our meeting last December. And we were very excited about that vision and what it might mean for workforce development here in southeastern Minnesota. UMR has since submitted an application for DMC funding to the city and to the DMC EDA. And I'd like Patrick to go through the application and share with us the recommendation from the EDA board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Appreciate the opportunity to bring forward a specific action item that advances our work to develop the talent infrastructure necessary for the growth of our innovation ecosystem and innovation district. So the specific request in front of you today is documented, and it refers to an up to $3 million support, which we can talk about the details of that, but that is the punchline. And I want to just provide some context for that. This work that we all have been doing, this vision that we have of Discovery Square, was first introduced in 2016, and I just want to make a point of saying it was Dr. Otley at the premier medical event in the United States in 2016 in San Diego that he stood up in front of hundreds of people and announced Rochester's commitment to developing a leading edge innovation district, and all he had was a sheet of paper and bare ground to work from. That was only 10 years ago next month, actually, when the vision was introduced, and today we have 1 and 2 Discovery Square, the Kellen Building, Discovery Walk. We have 100% occupancy of 1 Discovery Square, 50+% occupancy of 2 Discovery Square, and then last year's announcement of BioLabs, which is a premier shared lab operation, which is under construction and will be completed by September. All of those pieces, again, started from a single sheet of paper and a vision and a commitment. And as we continue to advance that work, you all said when we did the 5-year update that not only was that an incredible vision, but keep pushing. And so the accelerating health tech innovation became one of the top pillars of our 5-year update that was approved back in February. So we continue on that commitment to build out the vision for the Discovery Square Innovation District. And so today's reporting recommendation is another bite at that apple to keep this moving along. There will be plenty more opportunities for you to invest in the Discovery Square Innovation District, so know that there will be other opportunities forthcoming. This one is ready for action today. And with that, I'll ask Mike to walk through a bit of additional information. I should point out that Chancellor Carroll is in the audience and would be available if you had specific questions at some point during the presentation.
Excellent. Good morning. I would like to sort of ground this conversation with sort of a message that talks about what the next stage of Discovery Square is going to look like and how that differs from the previous 10 years. So if you think about the first 10 years of Discovery Square, it was very much about developing a strategy and developing a platform. And going forward, I think it's going to be much more focused on developing systems and connecting those systems. And those will specifically be focused on talent, which is what we're here to talk about today. But we also need to continue to develop systems around early stage capital, curation, about partnerships globally, and about connecting all of the different parts of the Discovery Square Innovation District ecosystem that we know are important if we ultimately want to achieve the vision. You've seen a version of this slide from me before, but I wanted to sort of reference this again. Our strategy is not changing. The Innovation District strategy has always been based on this idea that we need to go out into the world, we need to go out into the region, and we need to go out to innovators locally and make sure they are aware of what the opportunity is inside of Discovery Square. And so we have a team of people that work on this awareness building effort. That team continues to grow and put more and more companies into the pipeline. What we are talking to those companies about is a promise that we can deliver inside of Discovery Square Innovation District. And that promise is largely based on the middle part of this chart, and it is around the different nodes of the ecosystem that we commit to them to build so that their businesses can be successful. And you can see those exist around sort of 5 functional areas. It is important that we have service providers of all types that can provide the critical expertise that these scaling companies need. Obviously, for the industries we are in, they need a clinical validation partner, which we have the best in the world here with Mayo Clinic. We need to be able to provide them solutions to early stage capital, both dilutive and non-dilutive, so they can grow these ideas. And we need to connect our innovation districts to innovation districts around the world. The 5th node that we focus on inside of the ecosystem is around workforce and talent. And how can we ensure that these companies that come into Discovery Square, come into biolabs, that when they exit those facilities and they need to go from 2 people to 20 people, how can we demonstrate to them that we have the ability to provide that? And if we do that successfully, they will land in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, which is all of the infrastructure that we invest in. So 1 and 2 Discovery Square, biolabs, and potentially future investments. So we're here today to talk about the constraint that currently exists in the node around workforce and talent. And Dr. Johnson and Nucleus, I think, shared a very timely, specific example today of as their business is trying to scale from a handful of people to dozens or hundreds of people, the challenges they face. We know as we've gone out into the world and talked to high growth health tech companies that talent is the #1 thing they look at when they're trying to figure out where to make an investment. We know from the original 2016 Discovery Square Master Plan that ours is not going to be a market that attracts companies that have 50 people or 100 people to come and land here, that these companies are going to come small, or they're going to originate small, and they're going to need talent locally at scale. We also know when we think about talent, it's not just answering the question of where can I find people today, but these companies need to see a pipeline that is going to be consistent and predictable over time. So for us, that requires finding an operating partner that can deliver on that and building the infrastructure so that we can make that happen in proximity to these innovators. So we are fortunate today that we have just such one of those partners that has an opportunity to expand inside of the Innovation District and create the type of workforce development infrastructure that delivers on the needs that we continue to hear from industry both locally and globally. The expansion that we're talking about today is a step change in the scale of what we can deliver from a talent and workforce development perspective inside of Discovery Square. It represents a tremendously high impact investment on our part in that it really puts us on the path of developing both scope and scale. So how do we get more students, and how do we make sure those students have a wider breadth of skills that they can go into industry with, which are 2 things that we know we need. This project in particular with the University of Minnesota Rochester involves expansion of classroom and laboratory classroom space in both 1 and 2 Discovery Square. It provides us the ability to not only have the space, but also the partner to develop new programs that are very much in alignment with the skills that our industry is telling us they need. The space that we are going to talk about in particular, if you look at this slide, we've got 3 different areas of expansion inside of Discovery Square. If you look at the large image number 3, The grade space on that slide is the biolabs site that is currently under construction. Matt Tobin is here from Mortensen. I believe we're putting in flooring either this week or next week. So we are quickly getting to the point where that construction is going to be largely done. We start to load equipment in, and then we start to welcome companies into that space. The area on the bottom of that slide is where University of Minnesota Rochester's proposed project will be, representing roughly 9,000 square feet of classroom laboratory space, where both University of Minnesota Rochester and other partners have the physical infrastructure now to develop and deliver targeted workforce development education in alignment with the companies that will be literally right across the hall. This project, I know we've talked both in this meeting and University of Minnesota Rochester at their State of the Campus event has talked about the scale of what they look to do in Rochester over the coming years. This project is in alignment with the rest of the University of Minnesota Rochester expansion plan, which includes additional housing space, learning innovation space, and additional classroom space. But for us, this represents a very strategic asset in that it is in the heart of the innovation district, and it is so proximate to what is going to really be the innovation engine inside of Discovery Square, turning out ideas and companies at scale. So the recommendation from staff is as follows, that we approve this investment as one in strategic talent infrastructure. It is in alignment with the DMC and Discovery Square Master Plan, and it is in alignment with the priorities we have around growing our ecosystem. We recommend up to $3 million of GSIA support of eligible construction costs. We also ask that our funding be contingent upon equivalent funding from the University of Minnesota system, also in eligible construction costs. So with that, happy to answer any specific questions on our strategy or on this project in particular.
We'll open it up for discussion, but in a somewhat unusual way. I'm going to invite the Chancellor to maybe join you at the table as well to see if there are any specific questions for the Chancellor. And I believe she is joined today by a member of the Board of Regents. And I would like you to have the chance to bring her along and introduce her. We will not pepper you, Regent, with any questions, but we want to make sure you have the chance to be introduced and invited to join. Why don't you go to the other side of Patrick? And Chancellor Carroll, why don't we let you introduce yourself and your colleague on the board?
Good morning. I'm Lori Carroll, Chancellor of the Rochester campus of the University of Minnesota, and pleased to be joined by Regent Ruth Johnson, a physician at Mayo Clinic and a strong supporter of our campus here.
Welcome, Regent Johnson. We are delighted to have you here, and it's a wonderful asset for the Board of Regents in our state that there is such a priority around a representative from the Rochester community, and has historically, typically, often been served by a physician as well.
Right, thanks. Again, Ruth Johnson, Regent. I'm in my sixth year now as a Regent. It's been one of the honors of my lifetime. I've served many decades. I came to Rochester at age 21 to start medical school, and so I went to medical school, did my residency training here, and stayed on the staff for, well, 39 years, I think, something like that. It's been about half a century of life here, and learned, and I grew up in the Minneapolis area, understand the needs of the state, and have ties around the state. It's been an honor to serve as a regent, and just having the privilege of conferring degrees at the UMR on Saturday, to see the incredible work that the U is doing here in Rochester, what that has meant for our community, the education of young people, the workforce staff that is developed for here in our community as well as for around the state, in keeping with the whole land grant mission of the University of Minnesota, which is founded, I think, in an amazing way back in the Civil War era. The land grant means that the federal government gave land to the states. The states could sell that land and then use that money to build educational, universities. And the whole idea was that we could educate people who were the children of then farmers and mechanics, ordinary people, that not just the wealthy would have opportunities for education, but all citizens. And I think that's an incredible mission that would continue and continues with our immigrant communities and many others. And it's just an honor. So I'm hopeful that what we're doing here will be understood and appreciated by this community, and how we can help create the workforce here and, again, for throughout the state and beyond.
Thank you. So for board members, discussion, questions, if it's about the proposal, the recommendation by the EDA, we'll direct them to Patrick and Michael. If there is a specific question about the University of Minnesota's participation or commitment, then we will ask Dr. Carroll to address those. So we'll open it up for discussion. Member Schubring?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to really highlight how unique this relationship is and really commend the EDA staff, Michael and Patrick, on the thinking about the synergies and integration between what was a major announcement by this board with biolabs coming here, and now UMR, which we are also proud of here in Rochester, the opportunities for that synergy when it comes to workforce and talent and keeping folks here in Rochester and building what, Michael, you called the infrastructure of those nodes. And I do have a question at the end of this. So I see this is really about building that workforce talent node. And remembering the nodes up there, and I think maybe the one that isn't the strongest, maybe that early stage capital. How does this potentially build and make that node better and then really pull it all together?
Sure, it's an excellent question, and there's not a single strategy that we deploy around any of these different needs. It really is sort of a multifaceted approach. So when it comes to capital, there's a lot of ways that DMC can play a role in helping move us forward. There are strategies around providing better data to our entrepreneurs locally on where they can go to find capital and how they can access dilutive and non-dilutive. So you can sort of think of that as the lowest fidelity effort all the way up to we need to create funds or we need to recruit new funds to come and invest in companies in Rochester. I think why this expansion is so important is Chris will tell you, having done this longer than any of us, the number one way you draw more capital to your community is you have more good ideas that are investable. And the way we get to that is by having more students that are trained and that start to work with spin-outs and startups and biolabs and get inspired and go out and start their own companies and plant their own ideas. So it really is, these things are all connected. They all need to move forward concurrently. If you are weak in one of them, it can sink the whole effort. But this really represents, I think, the opportunity for us to develop more quality talent that can go out and become entrepreneurs on their own and ultimately draw more interest and more dollars from not only Midwestern funds, but from investors from all around the world.
Could I just, Madam Chair, if I could just add to that, I think another important role that DMC plays, and certainly the City of Rochester plays, is around de-risking. And the more that we de-risk the environment, the more capital feels safe and comfortable here, whether it's venture capital for startup firms where they believe their capital will succeed, or if it's real estate capital, and we're starting to see a lot of that flow into Rochester because people see this as an environment that's been de-risked because of policies and procedures of the city or the confidence in the market. So I think a big part of it is the role in which we convey that we are de-risking your investment here.
I'm just going to ask as an information item, it is in our board materials, but Mike, would you just state for the benefit of our discussion and for the public what the plan of finance is for all of this? We see the $3 million recommendation, but can you go through the financing for the whole, for the scope of the work that we're...
Sure, I can, and I will ask for some help maybe if I get some of the numbers wrong. So the total project cost is around $10.5 million. Up to $3 million of that will come from DMC GSIA funds. About $4.5 million will come from the city sales tax funds, and then the balance will be funded by University of Minnesota system for the total construction cost of roughly $10.5 million. Separately, there is obviously an annual operating fund. This is going to be a long-term lease, and we have calculated that fund at, or that amount at, I believe it was roughly $10 to $12 million, and that is being paid for by the university in its entirety. So from the capital spend portion of it, it's $3 million from us, $3 million from DMC, $3 million from University of Minnesota, and the balance from the city sales tax fund, and then the operating expense annually covered by University of Minnesota.
Thank you. You did that very well on the fly, and perhaps in future project recommendations, we can have a plan of finance slide, just so we understand that we are not the sole funder and that we are leveraging other funds as well. Member Williams and then Member Norton.
Yeah, I just, one, huge kudos. I mean, I see this as an investment in the broader project and effort, and huge kudos to UMR for your commitment to workforce, which, and I said to the Chancellor earlier today, how excited I was about the growth in the student body, in enrollment, and in the demographics of that student body. A lot of first-time graduates, great, wonderful diversity. So for me, a personal commitment of mine is always the diversity of workforce. Bringing that in combination with this project, I think, is just fantastic. I did have a question just about how the university, and I know the exciting expansion plans for the university, which we heard in past board meetings, is kind of planned in the future, and will we be expected to be a part of those future asks or those future projects? How does the university, UMR, kind of fund its physical expansion in the future?
I think that's a question for the Chancellor.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I just want to state our commitment to really tailor the academic programs that we will be expanding for the needs of the Innovation District. And in terms of future expansion and funding, know that, of course, this is my almost top priority. The top priority is the quality of education we provide our students, but securing that funding through a variety of sources is what we intend. To date, we've been, long-term leases, the public-private partnership approach, and the next part of our plan does include an academic building, and we have decisions to make about how we'll be structuring that financing. But all sources that you can imagine are possible, including the state and philanthropy. And we are just assembling the initial ideas about how we will be funding that next part of our expansion project. In terms of the third part of the expansion project, which is residence and recreation, anticipated to be a public-private partnership, we will not be seeking direct funding for that project.
Thank you, Chancellor. Member Norton?
Thank you. A couple thoughts as I'm listening to this really exciting proposition before us. One is, I think back to many years ago when Harvard looked at the city of Rochester and outlined, and I remember sending Patrick this little sheet of paper that showed healthcare, as our big, our largest square, obviously. And what we talked about with Harvard was, how do you grow healthcare adjacent economies in your community? Because you don't want to go way off and change where you spend your focus. You want to grow the infrastructure that you have and do adjacent growth. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So I find that really exciting, both with biolabs, with Radio Pharma, who talked earlier, and now moving ahead with providing that workforce. And one of the things that a community can do, I think, best is work on public-private partnerships, which is what DMC is, and what this is in particular, this particular ask is, city and state funding and the university, and, we're pulling everyone together in one direction to benefit the long-term growth and prosperity of the city of Rochester, Mayo Clinic, and all these other adjacent businesses that I was mentioning. So I think there's no better way to spend our money than investing in opportunities for another state-funded entity when I think about carrying this and this legislation a long time ago, it was, this is state funds and you have to use it wisely. And I can't imagine anyone saying, oh, let's not spend state funding on another strong state entity, which is our university system. And so we are working together in this public-private partnership to move that agenda forward. So I see nothing negative in this and only positives. And the only question I had, I did want to comment on the diversity of the workforce. If you had been at that graduation this weekend, I challenge you to find another university, except for maybe one of the historically black colleges and universities. Find me another university that has as diverse a workforce as I saw walking across that stage. It was absolutely remarkable, and everybody was commenting about it. So kudos to you for successfully graduating one of the most diverse classes of students in the country, I'm sure. So the question I have has to do with who owns this building and the investments we're making. And I assume this is, an investment that was done by Mortensen. I assume they still own the business, so that improvements that are made will benefit them in the long run. But I'm curious, how long of a lease are we talking about here to try to help folks be comfortable with this as an investment for another company that owns the building, but a lease that will benefit us for how long?
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, do you want to, Patrick and Mike, do you want to address that?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So Mortensen, which has been our development partner to execute on the Discovery Square vision, do own the properties and will continue to own the properties for the foreseeable future. They are both the owners and operators of the property. I guess I'll let you respond to the question about the length of your lease in particular.
Yes, thank you. So the first phase is a 10-year with extensions. So our current lease is anticipated to be 30-year for the space that we do have already. And so we would anticipate that sort of very long-term commitment to the Innovation District with these leases. Do note that following this vote and a vote by the City Council on June 1st, we will be taking this lease to our Board of Regents on June 11th, which is a really important date as well for us.
And just a technical matter that I'm sure is nothing to worry about, but I did notice in our materials that in addition to laboratory space and classroom space, it does allow for general office space. The presumption, I'm sure, is that is just a de minimis amount for the critical faculty or staff that are directly associated with it, but we would certainly not envision making a significant investment in building out laboratory space to have it used for general office sometime within the term of the 30-year lease. So I don't think there's any need to address that. I'm sure that's not the plan, but just for the record, I wanted to make sure that I had raised that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Tammy, would you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Chair Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you
and,
very much.
Good luck at the City Council and the Board of Regents meetings. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As we're moving on I'm sorry.
Our next set of agenda items are on a couple of different capital projects. And before we start on those, I just want to point out to the board members, you have updated resolutions for these two action items that were at your place today. They have been updated to note that because we are actually operating within an already adopted two-year budget, the most significant action item of which was last September with $38 million of public infrastructure. One of the requests that Patrick made on really my behalf or at my direction was to work with the city about are there other already budgeted projects for this two-year cycle that are now lower priority than these items. And so you will see that in the resolution we have reflected that there's about a $500,000 project that will essentially be canceled and allow us then to keep within our budgetary framework of our two-year budget and to essentially reallocate those canceled funds. to potentially fund these two items if they are approved.
could I have-
Let me just finish this second note. That might have been, I might have encompassed both of them. I will say we will have some presentation of both of these items, and we will talk about them and act on them separately. But Member Norton, did you have a clarifying?
I think I'm understanding that page 101 in the book is to be removed, and instead we are adding two resolutions that are not numbered that we were just handed in place of that. Is that correct?
I will have to ask somebody else to confirm the numbers.
Because the resolutions don't have numbers on them for some reason, so I was struggling with making sure I'm. So page 101 in our handbook is.
And I believe page 95 is the other.
And 95. Well, that's the one we just voted on.
Yes, I can respond.
Can you help?
So there are two resolutions that are being replaced with the two in front of you. Yes, one is on page 95 and one is on page
Okay.
101.
101, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion. The board packets were sent out prior to modification that was proposed.
I think I will just reiterate that that is the only modification to the resolutions that you previously received in the board packet, is just to incorporate in the resolution essentially the cancellation of that previously approved project. So Patrick, why don't I turn it over to you? And I see that you're joined by Cindy and Brooke. Maybe you want to introduce them as well for the.
Thank you. Thank you, and joined by colleagues Cindy Steinhauser and Brooke Carlson, whom you well know. I also just wanted to note that both the prior action you just took and action you may take here will both go before City Council, consistent with our bilateral agreement requirement for any action. So City Council can anticipate the last action item and these action items coming forward to them as well. So we have four action items related to public infrastructure, and these are all projects you're largely familiar with, but one, which is a new concept that we're introducing. But I'll turn to Brooke and Cindy to provide additional detail about each of these, but understand these all are related to infrastructure investments that we have been part of and have been committed to over the years. The first of which is, and maybe Brooke, I don't want to steal your thunder, so if you're prepared to do that introduction, I'll leave it to you.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here with you today. I will kick us off, and then I will hand it over to Deputy Administrator Steinhauser to lead the action item discussion. So we will start off with an item that we call the Downtown Infrastructure Alignment Project. And as you likely recall, this is our $38 million investment to enhance the investment by Mayo Clinic's Bold Forward, Unbound, and Rochester initiative, and really with the purpose of improving the underground infrastructure in the public realm around campus to better connect into our downtown and surrounding neighborhoods. So as part of this process and the approval that the board previously made, we are required to come back as staff with each incremental approval as the work is moving forward. And in order to do that, we have divided this larger investment into a set of packages, which are essentially blocks together, that are led by project managers, and they are aligned on their own timelines, but coordinated very closely with Mayo Clinic's timeline and, of course, with DMC staff. This work is ongoing. You'll see these projects come back to you over the next couple years with subsequent requests. The one before you today is different than the request will be in the future because of the urgency of Mayo Clinic's timeline and our adherence to the overarching guiding principles of dig once. So Ms. Steinhauser will go through the request today, but I want to be clear that we are already engaged in design work of an overall design scheme for the $38 million, as well as advancing design design on one of our really key corridors, the 6th Avenue project. So we'll come back in September with some initial design concepts for discussion and feedback at that point that will then prepare you for an approval process in December for those subsequent projects. So again, this today is a bit of a unique situation because of the timeline. So you can see in your packet, there is a table that just really indicates how we're thinking about laying out these project packages, which have very catchy names at this point, but queuing up the idea that we're approving a package today, we'll have time for discussion at the September meeting, really hearing your thoughts as we're moving forward for December approval, and then subsequent approvals will also have discussion more so than today's. I will hand it to Cindy.
Great, thank you, Brooke. And so today's request is for the release of $3.6 million in funding of the $38 million that you have previously approved. As Brooke indicated, there's a timeliness to this request. We're in a little bit, admittedly in a little bit of a catch-up in 2026 to align our infrastructure work with Mayo's schedule in order to honor those guidelines that our respective organizations have adopted related to Build Once. This work is going to be done in conjunction with Mayo's underground power utility infrastructure work and coordinated there. And so while we realize this is an accelerated, and as you can see in the presentation, it's both below ground infrastructure improvements as well as above ground infrastructure improvements, all done in coordination. We do recognize it feels like an accelerated release of funding for this request, and as Brooke had indicated, and as you saw in the previous slide, we have laid out what we think is a very reasonable and predictable future plan for how these dollars and these requests will come to you for the release of both planning and construction. This is time sensitive. We've already identified a more consistent process to advance greater release of funds in the future. Oh, pardon me, go back. So I think with that, I will just pause if there are questions.
Members? Member Beckman?
I think I would, thank you, Madam Chair. Patrick, it was helpful in our conversation this past week to understand, I wasn't here for the vote on the overall 38 million. So I had a little discomfort voting on a one-off project, not seeing it in the bigger scope of things. I understand now the urgency, and I appreciate you connecting those dots and why this one might feel a little bit different than future ones. I think my overall concern is just the uncertainty of construction costs and fuel prices and the uncertainty of the world right now that has impact on capital projects like this. And making decisions now about a budget that could limit our funds in the future to do everything. And so just talk to me a little bit about the assumptions built into the other packages that you are bringing forward and the ability to stay under our $38 million goal.
And I'm going to just tag along on that. I do think at each of our meetings during the course of the year, it would be great as an update to have where we are budgetarily, what that means about the anticipated use of contingency and what % completion are we. And there may be a better and more complete way to provide that update as part of our regular board packet. But I think keeping on top of that will be helpful and important to us as we move forward. Patrick, or?
Yeah, to help, just returning to this slide to help address the question that Member Beckman is referring to, and it's our attempt to provide confidence that we are mapping out all of the projects that were part of the entire package that was approved with the $38 million, respectful of and sensitive to the question you're raising, and I'll ask Cindy to respond to that and provide some guidance about how we're addressing out years.
Yes, thank you for that. It's a great question, and actually one we literally just discussed this morning talking about a project. What about unknowns, right? Disruptors that could impact project budget, project schedule. So I would say probably the best way for me to answer that is all of the time. We took over a year to build out and reassess and reassess and reassess these numbers. And throughout that process, we looked at the latest bid numbers that we had received, tried to anticipate a projection of cost of a potential increase in cost of services, and literally went block by block dozens of times saying, is this the right number for this block? And I think included in your packet of information is that detail behind each block and how we arrived at it, because we also included in that metrics existing conditions, age of current infrastructure, understanding things like what lives below ground, the quality of the pavement surfaces, how recently work was done in that area, and to what extent are we leveraging that. So, and I would say that we continue to do that as a team internally. We meet weekly and monthly very specifically to say, are we on track, right? Are we on track with schedule? How is it looking in terms of budget based on new numbers coming on other projects? We also have that very same monthly meeting with our colleagues at DMC to say, are we in compliance? Are we meeting the intent of what we told this board we were going to do, what we told City Council what we were going to do? So I would say that we have built in a lot of checks and balances along the way, both across the city team and then in collaboration with the DMC partners and our colleagues at Mayo. We have more than weekly meetings going through these projects. We have multiple standing meetings every single week with the pure intent is to say, how are we collaborating? Are we in the same block at the same time? Are we behind a week? Are we behind 3 weeks? Are we ahead of schedule? So a lot of time and care and feeding is going in watching these projects block by block.
I wanted to just add that I'm not surprised to hear that, because I think doing this part well is so integral and so critical to Mayo being able to stay on schedule with their work. I don't think that there is anything that I feel the more concern around timeliness and predictability and execution than this work in terms of the projects that we've authorized. I want to emphasize the importance of the September meeting, because I do know that we had a lengthy discussion about our expectations about how this will shape the neighborhoods and the area around the Mayo construction, and what our expectations were around quality and pedestrian friendly and contribution to community. I don't want there to be a presumption that that won't be something we want to spend significant time on, so that we end up not feeling as comfortable with the action items that you're proposing for our December meeting. So that the work this summer on that and the nature of that discussion in September will be really important in order to allow us to feel the comfort to keep this on schedule with our own action and deliberation. I think Member Norton, you had a question or concern?
Good question.
Member Williams?
My question is just about the bid, the nature of the bids that we have. How long do the bids hold for? Do we have bids for the entire $38 million package? Okay, so I should have probably known that. So we are taking the bids kind of one project at a time.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. So,
That's what's making your number.
yes,
Yeah,
so we may see inflationary pressures, obviously.
Or scope change.
Yes, yeah, okay, thank you.
Member,
May I add
or,
one
excuse
comment?
me.
One of the very clear expectations of identifying who we'll be working with as the overarching design consultant was around, we need to create a design scheme that aligns with our budget, so we're not overestimating what we can accomplish, but also acknowledges the expectations of our board around innovation, around understanding which are really the key corridors for different modes of transportation, and aligning that design and those elements with what the board expects to see. So we've already started those conversations and do, again, hope to have a really good conversation in September about that.
And if I could just build to that, we will actually be bringing forward a recommendation to the City Council to bring somebody on for a consultant on to guide that bigger picture.
Member Norton?
Just for clarity, because we're adding new pieces today. So we've replaced the resolution, and it says the scope of approval for the capital projects is set forth in Exhibit A, which is blank. So is this document Exhibit A that we're looking at on the screen?
defer to the author of the resolution.
Cody, you have the.
Exhibit A, I'm sorry,
Is it this multicolored chart that just isn't labeled
give me-
as exhibit? I gotta look.
just one moment to,
Yeah, yeah. Is it the one on 81? That's this one.
sorry, Madam Chair, Member Norton, which,
So the resolution is on page 89, and it refers several times in the resolution to, particularly it appears around infrastructure package B3, the UPUI, as further detailed on Exhibit A. And
Yes,
Exhibit
so-
8 is referenced several times, and we just want to clarify what is
yes,
Exhibit 8.
yes. I'm sorry, and Cody has clarified that for me, and it was at my insistence that we had this out of order. So page 89 is the resolution, and 77 is the exhibit. 77 through
Okay.
87, or through 88 are the exhibit.
And that is titled Original Funding Matrix. That's what you're
That's
referring
right.
to?
Yes.
Thank you.
And it's actually includes
And
this
the
memo.
Yes,
Yep.
got it. Thank you for
So
the
pages
clarity.
77 through 88, thank you for asking. And as Member Norton indicated, the resolution is on page 89, and I will take a motion on the resolution.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Member Beckman?
Chair, I just wonder, to your comment on timeliness, I appreciate your request for information from staff, because I think that is the information I'm looking for the comfort level. But do our meetings meet the timeliness required by this project? And is the EDA the space that manages it in between meetings?
I'll let Patrick, I'll defer to Patrick on this, but essentially, the staff of the city and the EDA will move the work forward in between our action items. And generally speaking, on a sensitive and significant item like this, there will be dialogue, at least between maybe the EDA chair and the board chair in between our scheduled meetings, but I think that is the additional advice that I have provided about if we're to maintain our schedule, we need to feel confidence when we go into those meetings that our issues and interests have been understood and identified and addressed.
Thank you.
Patrick?
I would just add that all of us at DMC EDA and city staff and all consultants are aware of your schedule and are working against that schedule. So, which is why they've been able to program out and tried to predict when action items would be coming forward, so.
Member Schubring?
I just want to thank Member Beckman for pointing out some discomfort, and I want to say both to the EDA staff as well as to our city staff that discomfort will be felt on June 1st as well at the City Council. So any work that you can do to really tighten that up and really give us as a City Council that kind of comfort is important for the yes model that we have here. So thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion, Tammy, would you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye?
and Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you.
Just to predict, well, let's just do the Heart of City update, is that?
So this next request is first to provide you an update on action that you approved last year. that has been completed and where we stand with the new request related to Heart of the City. So in 2025, you approved the authorization of $175,000, and the goal was to focus on wider, more uniform walkways, specifically to address ADA experience, and not accessibility. It is an accessible site, but ADA experience. And so happy to report that we did, in collaboration with the local artist, we're able to look at the site, widen the smooth portion of the experience by about 5 to 6 feet, depending on where you sit in the plaza. And we did it in such a way that did not dismantle and diminish the artwork that was designed for that space. And so the work that was done was basically just over 2,000 square feet of pavers that were reset. We did an access specifically to the scrim pool. We did some installation of tree grates, so there was some concern about the exposure of not having tree grates and perhaps catching themselves, so we did that installation, and all of that work was done. Ultimately, we have this wider, more vibrant space. I would also note that the improvements were done in such a way to not diminish and intrude upon the businesses that are adjacent to the space, and also allow the space to continue to be activated and remain vibrant during these improvements. Now what we are here, but we've also learned from it, right? And we know that there is still more work to be done related to the experience. And so what we are asking is up to $334,000, and for that work will go in 2 ways specifically. That we want to do some redesign and paver resetting around the tree rooms that exist along First Avenue. We did notice that there had been some failure of the bricks that line the immediate tree room. We did prototype a solution just over a year ago. It's been very successful. We'd like to roll out that solution to the remaining tree grates, not only for longevity, but for to really rise up to the expectation of the aesthetic look and feel that we were looking for. The other portion of that ask is for some additional technical analysis. What this technical analysis will do will let us go in and understand the source and cause of some remaining isolated settlement that we are seeing among the pavers. We are specifically looking at the underlying snowmelt system and other systems, infrastructure that lives below ground where there might be joints leaking that could be causing some of that settlement. So it's an exploratory technical analysis to understand where that settlement's happening and to develop a remediation for those pavers. And I should note, similar to, in alignment with what Chair Wheelock had indicated, the source of funding for this would be from something that was previously allocated in your budget. So we're not asking for a new ask, but a reallocation of those dollars that were public realm related.
And I hate to be a stickler on this, but I'm going to be. It is not a reallocation. It allows us to stay within our adopted budget. We are canceling one project, and we are approving, the request is to approve 2 new projects. And I say that because there is a discipline around that process where I don't want people to feel that if a project comes in under budget, that is free money and easily reallocated. That is a board action. It's discretionary. We can do one but not the other. And so just to be a stickler on process, I just want to be really crystal clear about that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments on this project? Let's get a motion on the table and then have discussion. So is there a member that is willing to move the resolution that is now on page 95 that was available to you at your desk today?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's open it up for discussion. Member Norton?
Thank you. I do want to say thank you for the work that's been done on this project already. I want to encourage you to remain open to additional changes that may need to be made. I've shared some information with Patrick and our city administration. I have continued concerns in certain areas that I hope we can address. And also, I guess I just need to ask this question. This was all done, in my mind, the bricks need to be deeper, thicker, and heavier. The bricks are very light in the future, rather than what I heard someone say, we just go to cement, because I don't think that gives us the ambiance and the look that we want for our downtown. But there are better, thicker, deeper, bigger bricks that we could use that still are a compromise to this. So I would encourage you to look at that. But also, can't we hold accountable the people who did this work that is not holding up? And so I just need to ask that question. Are we moving forward with saying this work that you did is substandard? It's not holding up the way we wanted it to. And was it the choice of the bricks that's the problem? You mentioned snow and other possible impacts. How are we going to do this moving forward? And can we look at the work that's been done?
And Member Dorton, I just want to add and maybe acknowledge the comments that Chair Otley made around the two projects that we're going to be considering, this one and the next one. I did ask Patrick for the opportunity to meet with Allison, the city administrator, and to talk a little bit about process. I am also very mindful that we are funding and approving between Mayo's investment and the DMC investment, in addition to the city and the county typical work, a massive increase in public infrastructure investment. And for a community of this size, that is a heavy lift. We also, Patrick and I talked to Tammy and Katie about contract review and really looking to see, is there sufficient both due diligence and technical analysis before the award of the contract, and is there sufficient language in the contract to hold the vendors and the contractors accountable if there is a failing in design or installation that is attributable to their work, and we'll see if there is anything that we can suggest. I am concerned about the likelihood that if there is a leak in the snow melt system, that will provide future degradation of the system. And I do think that there is, for both the EDA board and for the DMC board, a distinction between funding the initial public infrastructure to enhance the downtown community and the expectation then separately that we might be a source of funding for any failure of that system or any operational costs attributable with using that public infrastructure. And that is the evolution of the DMC and increased clarity about what the opportunity cost is for every dollar we spend. If we do that, then we can't do something around business innovation or workforce development. So we are reaching the point where there is a higher set of expectations about the clarity of the contractual relationships and the due diligence before awarding contracts. And I think that is...
Thank you for that.
I appreciate you raising that as well. Cindy, Patrick, Brooke, anything you would like to add?
Sure, I would echo everything that you just said, and I would say we would be remiss, right? We recognize that these are tax dollars. And if something is not performing to the level that it should have, that we do the appropriate due diligence to understand why and hold the appropriate entity accountable to the best extent that we are able to. So we will absolutely be undertaking an assessment of the project in its entirety and understanding, once we understand, when we do this, technical analysis and getting back to root cause and then tracing the project back to understand what culpability might exist there.
Thank you. Representative, or Member Schubring, and then Member Williams.
Well, first, this project just keeps on giving, and it's really, we saw it with Peace Plaza, and now we're seeing it here, and I'm not looking forward to the discussion at the City Council on this piece. And I just echo what the mayor said and what Chair Wheelock said is we really need to hold those that, whether it was a design, engineering, construction issue, we need to hold them accountable, and we need to to know what we are building as well. So, and whether it will hold up, because I can't continue to support rebuilds when something, and it wasn't during my tenure on the DMC, but I know this is not a very old project. It's not wear and tear. So just reiterating that, and then to Chair Wheelock's issues with infrastructure and the initial funding of infrastructure and looking ahead to the next item, I think we really have to be clear as to what is a DMC project, what is really building on the amenities of the DMC district and the original intent of the DMC. And I say this as City Council President, that I do respect that the funds that the state is providing to the DMC board, that there is a distinction between what those initial funds are to create and enhance a destination medical center and district, and what is commonly public works infrastructure of a city. And so I will be looking for that distinction as well from my perch here as well. So thank you.
Member Williams and then Member Time.
Yeah, one, I drove by and kind of looked at this area this morning, and so I'm interested in finding a solution and want to be able to trust staff that this is the right path to take. So that's just one point. A second question, though, is around other partners. Are we the full funding source for this fix and for the original project? We are?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So I was just curious if others were being asked to participate. So fully on us. And then my third comment is just I appreciate this point around due diligence around design. And this is just my inner infrastructure geek. Pavers and winter do not go well together, period. I've seen it around my buildings, and it's just my experience. And so that due diligence in design, actually, I suspect is where this kind of falls. It's just my hunch. But so finding the right solution right now, I want to be supportive of the solution. I want to be supportive of the staff recommendation and the work that's gone into this. But that question around due diligence and kind of design and at what point are we responsible, for additional costs down the road. So just 3 comments. Thank you.
Member Time.
I echo all these concerns. Are we using the same contractor that designed and installed this to do the repairs or not?
That's a great question. I will have to follow up. I do not have that answer right now.
Because I really think, I'm a contractor and I make decisions on what jobs I'm going to do all the time based on risk and reward. And I understand that if I did a job and I didn't do it properly, I would want the opportunity to fix it. But I would have a difficult time paying dollars for somebody else to fix my screw up. So I would like us to give an opportunity to the engineer and the contractor who designed this to do the actual repair, because otherwise I think we're going to have a hard time getting dollars back for these mistakes. So.
And let me correct myself. We have to get bids yet, so we do not have a contractor on board.
I think there are 2 things. One is the analysis of the original contract, and the second is, the decision about how best to move forward. Because if there are no ways to actually go back and have some accountability to the original contractor, then I think with the use of public dollars, we are required to actually go through a public bidding process. So it's I think the analysis of the original contract and the course of the source of the problem probably need to occur first before we can move forward on the second. I do hope, though, that since some of this funding is for the technical analysis, I expect there'll be a report about what we learn after we expend those funds for the technical analysis. And I think you're hearing reservations from the board about a willingness to continue to fund, fund the same work basically twice. Any other discussion? Seeing none, then I'll ask Tammy to call the roll.
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Chair Wheelock.
Aye. All right, Patrick, can we move to the next item?
Thank you. Next item relates to operating infrastructure to help support the public safety around the public spaces that we've been involved with. I'll let Cindy describe that request.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. So, as indicated, one of the conversations we've been having is how do we leverage the investment of these really great public realm spaces? The intent of these spaces has been to further activation, and we've been fortunate in seeing that in the use not only of Peace Plaza, but also Discovery Square, Discovery Walk. So through that, what we have found that there is a better way for us to think about the safety during these public events, a way that doesn't require as much personnel time, specifically police staffing time, setup time for the organizers, and just provide general safety to the public in these events. So one of the solutions that was brought forward, and we're asking for DMC to be a partner along with the city and Mayo, is for the purchase of what we call Meridian Gates. They are a solution that we have seen successfully deployed not only across the United States for this kind of use, but actually here. And so we would like to have them available. They're an expensive item, and that's why we went to our other partners to look at cost share. So what we're asking for is just over $155,000, which is 1/3 of the cost. And again, the idea is thinking about the safety during public events. We've had a number of years of use and learning of these spaces to know that there is a better way, from a cost-effective way and from a safety way. And we also know that these are something that could be deployed when there isn't an event happening in downtown. They would be restricted to the DMC district, but they could also be a wonderful safety measure that our traffic control and police department could deploy as we manage road closures and the continuous changing of road closures throughout the next 5 years with Unbound. So our ask is for the $155,000 of money from a previously canceled project. Am I saying that correctly? So we stay within budget with this request.
Members? Why don't we get a motion on the table for this and then have the discussion?
Oh, pardon.
Can I have a motion for approval?
Sorry.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, Member Tyne?
I have a hard time wrapping my head around how this is a DMC expense. I mean, I agree that the gates are worthwhile, and a city the size of Rochester should utilize it, but I don't know that the state of Minnesota should be paying for it. I don't know that I'll support this. I'd like to see Mayo and Rochester go together on this and maybe leave DMC out of it. It's not infrastructure. It's not improving the experience of the visitors to Mayo Clinic.
So if I might respond to that, it does meet the definition of public infrastructure. That was one of the first things we wanted to make sure we understood, that it would even be an eligible cost. I would also say that knowing what we know now, we quite likely would have designed something within the original project that would have been a lot more costly to allow the level of safety that we think is necessary for activation of these spaces. So it is after the fact. Had we known what we know now at the time of designing the project, we would definitely have included other safety measures that I can tell you would have been more cost prohibitive than the purchase of these Meridian Gates.
Member Norton and then Member Schubring.
So I'm struggling with this one as well. for a couple reasons. One, a third of the money is for DMC, but 2/3 is from other entities. And so I guess I'm wondering why we would limit it if there was another use outside the DMC district, if only a third of the money is DMC. So that's just a question I had. The second one is, I remember, and I told Patrick Sieb this, that when our fire chief left, and we've subsequently hired a new one, one of the things he came in my office and talked about was his concern for safety downtown, and that he wasn't sure that with all the events that we hold down there, that we were protecting people well enough with the type of security we had. I've taken that to heart. I've talked with the police chief about it. So that part of me is saying, yes, we should be doing something more to make sure that people are protected when we go downtown. And I think this gate that opens and closes allows, if there was a fire or police needed to get in, it could open. The second part is this a strong enough fence to keep a car from going through, which is one of the things it's supposed to do. And in looking at that picture, it seems to me a car could drive right through it. So can you help me a little bit with those two questions?
Just a point of clarification, first of all, these are movable gates, and so I am not understanding that there is any restriction that the city would have about only using them in the downtown development district.
That's why I was.
Except I made that comment, if there, we would keep them contained to the downtown area because DMC was one of the funding sources, so we wouldn't use them outside of the DMC district.
I will just add, and I'll turn to our legal counsel for clarification on however the resolution is written, but I think that this is an asset. Part of the attractiveness, I would imagine, for the community is these are movable. I don't think there will be a frequency of events in the downtown to suggest they need to be limited to just the development, the DMC development district. I would hope that would have a priority use if there's competing demands. But I think the city needs to figure out how to use these optimally, regardless of how they're funded. So maybe I can just ask if there's, it does say it will be used within it. I don't think it says it will be used exclusively within it, so I doubt that there's any need to adjust the resolution. But Tammy, do you have a perspective on that?
I am comfortable with the resolution, but I think if the board feels more comfortable, we could say to prioritize use within
That would be great.
the district.
I think that would be appreciated.
Okay.
And the process to make that amendment to the resolution, Tammy?
I believe we have a motion by Schupring and a second by Baker, so if they both consent to the amendment that I just listed, then our amendment on the table will be that.
I accept that.
I do as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then the firmness issue.
Sure. It's not just the gate, it's what holds up the gate. It actually, thank you, Patrick, it actually catches the car and locks the car.
Okay.
Or vehicle.
It wraps
The
around.
gates swing around to the side and tuck under the sides of the car. We can share a video after.
That's fine. I'll take your word on it, but
Okay.
I needed to hear that, and that's great. Thank you.
Member Schubring?
Can you give us some examples of where this is going to be used to Member Tynes' point? I suspect Thursdays on First, which is an event that Mayo Clinic patients come outside of the clinic walls and participate in that this would be a place. So talk about like where you see it being used and more than just that Peace Plaza, heart of the city area, but then also how unique is this? Because I struggle with, is this city infrastructure, or is there a uniqueness to this that a destination place it's enhancing that destination?
So to your first question in terms of where used, absolutely First Avenue, where a lot, not just Thursdays on First, but a lot of activity happen, a lot of events happen. And we see them, the investment in Peace Plaza has made that successful in terms of wanting to be the space where people have events, but we're seeing more and more those events are growing and they're spilling out onto First Avenue. So it's not just Thursdays on First. We have parades down there. We have Latin festivals, social life. So that is core to an area to be used. We also envision them being used on Discovery Walk. Midweek Farmers Market is a perfect example of an effective use and necessary use needed for an event needs this kind of barrier. I would say from a safety perspective throughout the entire unbound infrastructure area, we are pivoting street closures sometimes daily. And so when not in use by an event, likely to be deployed for closures primarily with emphasis on the unbound area. So I appreciate, as a partner, the willingness to consider use beyond the DMC district boundaries, but also highly supportive of that. It's DMC district as a priority. And so to that note, there is the potential that we could use them in traffic management elsewhere when an event is not happening. In terms of uniqueness, I'm not sure that I can I fully understand it. I would say it is an emerging technology that communities across the country, and not just organizers, but public safety entities are recognizing is the kind of device that gives people the confidence that they are safe at an event, and that translates into more people feeling confident to attend those events. They are customizable in that we can put images on them that are specific to our community. So to the extent that that is a promotional component to it, we can put logos on them and customize them to Rochester. I think that is our ability to make the actual device itself unique.
Thank you.
Member Williams?
Yeah, to your last point, I think this is actually a really important investment. I think safety is about experience and confidence. I think the city should be flexible in where it chooses to use these, be smart about that. However, I think this feels more operational than permanent infrastructure. And I think we, especially in these very tight times, in terms of infrastructure dollars, I'm concerned that it just kind of sets a precedent. And perhaps we've had other examples like this before. So I don't know that I can support this more on just kind of a principle basis as opposed to the amount of money, $150,000, out of our 38 million. I mean, we shouldn't be kind of at this point even in terms of this discussion, but I just as a matter of principle, it feels more operational than permanent. Completely get the importance of it, and I do think it's central to experience and confidence and safety.
I'm going to jump in here as well. I'm going to vote for this, and but I will state my reservations about this, and I just want to be clear because I think that this is important in our relationship during the next decade or more. We moved very publicly to a 2-year budget process. This is not the time for us to consider new projects, and we are. And the reason that I am willing to support this is because we are staying within that 2-year project budget by the identification of a lower priority project that we can cancel. Secondly, I think that this belief that the DMC, even if something is an eligible use, that does not mean it's a priority use for us. And we are not interested in having the long-term operational responsibility for aspects of the public infrastructure that we fund. Third, I will say I have both supervised public safety functions and been part of organizations where I've had to evaluate public safety funding requests. This is always challenging, but I am struck by the fact that there is not, to our knowledge, another municipality that has these gates in Minnesota. Mayo rents them. The University of Minnesota might have one or more of them. But this is leading into that space, not following into that space here in Minnesota. And yet, relationships are important. I am hearing that this is an important investment, public safety investment to city leadership. And it's been supported by Mayo, and it's been recommended with reservations by the EDA board, so I'm going to support it. But these are the things that in a relationship banking account, these are not deposits, these are withdrawals for the reasons that I stated. And I just want folks to be mindful of the implications that how we do things in partnership with one another is very important as well. Any other comments, Member Norton?
I'm just going to say, I really appreciate your comments there, and my wanting to lean toward voting for this in support of it is public safety. My question is this one gate?
It's 4.
It is 4 of these systems that could close 2 streets at a time.
Thank you. I wanted that on the record, because if this is about public safety, we know that people are more likely to come to public events when they feel safe. So for that reason, for the public safety, I think I'm having a hard time, but I think I can lean toward this. But I share everything I just heard from the chair. I have those same reservations and concerns. This is a lot of money to be used for something that wasn't in the works, and I keep thinking, is this our top priority, or are there other things down the line that we may want to spend this money on? And we're choosing this, but because we're choosing it for public safety, for the people in the community, I'm finding I can lean that way.
Any other comments? Tammy, would you take the roll?
All right, so this is on the amended motion that we have on the table. Baker.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Nay.
Williams.
Nay.
Chair Wheelock.
Aye.
5 ayes, 2 nays. The motion carries.
Thank you, members, for that discussion. Thank you, staff, for being here today to present on this. And why don't we move on to discussion items? Patrick, Link.
Thank you.
Bus Rapid Transit.
Thank you. We wanted to provide you an update on Link Rapid Transit, moving along swimmingly. Big, complicated public infrastructure project, the largest in Rochester's history, the first electric bus rapid transit in greater Minnesota, moving through a district that is in the middle of $5 billion worth of other public and private investment. And under Cindy's leadership, I'll turn it to you, Cindy, to provide an update.
Great, thank you, Patrick. So very excited for what you're going to see today on Link Rapid Transit, not only in the project banners that are in the adjacent room, but on the tour today, I think you'll be as excited as I was driving around this morning. The current project status, we are, as of today, 33% complete with the construction of the project. It's always good coming out of the ground. We have begun receiving vehicles. Our next vehicle is this month, and following the receipt of the second vehicle, we will start to receive vehicles about every 2 to 3 weeks after. We are, the final bid package was awarded. This was the restroom package for West Transit Village. That project bid came in under budget, which is always exciting to hear. And that work is anticipated to start yet this summer. The project itself is still on schedule to be completed late summer next year. We always want to make sure that we provide you an update related to contingency. And so I think you have in your packet a contingency report. We are managing this through the policy that was adopted by our organizations that allows provisions for coming to you through the normal meeting cadence, but there is also a provision there to activate the use of emergency contingency dollars based on need. And in this case, we did activate the policy for using about $783,000 of unallocated contingency. This was necessary to relocate 2 medium voltage electrical duct banks that were in conflict with elevator shaft down at the St. Mary's site. it was necessary to activate this as emergency contingency to be able to order the materials in a timely way and get the project underway so that it would not stop and delay the work for that project that could have ultimately delayed the project in its entirety. We did bring this request to City Council for their approval, which they did on April 20th. We are bringing it to you as an update, and I believe in your packet, let me go back, is a summary of the contingency that has been spent to date on the project, as well as forecasting what is likely to be a contingency request that comes in September that we're preparing more information on.
So if I could, yeah, thank you. If I could just recap and summarize. Project is moving along quite well, beginning to see the infrastructure come out of the ground with the transit stations beginning to take shape and take form. You are going to see it firsthand as a part of the joint meeting as we traverse the much of the corridor, and you'll see the work that's underway. There was a total of $22 million established for contingency. You'll see that on page 104. Total of $22 million that was established for contingency. We are preparing some additional contingency requests that will come forward in September, largely for construction management services, given the extension, project extension, meaning that it goes on for a year longer than was originally budgeted. So we will be at about a remainder of about $17+ million of contingency. We are at roughly 30% of construction.
This is not an action item today, but are there any questions on this report? Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just a comment that it's wonderful to be that far under contingency usage at this point in the project, even though we're heading into probably the heavier construction times in the last, half to 2/3 of the project, but great work.
All right, Patrick,
Thank you.
proceed.
So the last item on the agenda for discussion, should the board wish to provide any guidance or direction, as you mentioned, Chair Wheelock, we have established a 2-year budget model. That budget was adopted in September of 2026. You indicated at the time, the board indicated at the time, that you might be prepared for any update, budget modifications, operating modifications, incremental, modest, if you would, in the subsequent year. And so while we're not prepared to suggest or advance anything at this time, we want just to put that on your radar screen and take any guidance that you might have to offer.
I would, Member Beckman?
Chair Wheelock, I think it is I more have, I'm the newbie on the board and still trying to put my head around the budget process. And the budget was passed before I got here, so I have a general question, and some goes back to the comment you made, like sort of clarifying with staff about previously canceling. So our votes previously were to adopt projects that came from another project that was deemed a lower priority project that could cancel. So I felt I wanted to vote on, or I wanted some input on what was a lower priority project. And that I almost wonder if there should have been a vote saying, we voted previously to do $500,000 on St. Mary's. And we just sort of undid that decision through 2 other decisions. So I think the direction I would give to staff is in the future is to put that first to us. Do you agree that $500,000 to St. Mary's is a low priority? And Patrick, you made me comfortable with that decision in our conversation by saying you think you can build it into another part of the project. And so at the time, I sort of said, that's fine, we can let it go. But I think that should have been daylighted for the board, and that we should have made that decision. Because it could have been, no, we actually think that St. Mary's planning is more important than a fence, or is more important than pavers. And so there's that direction for future actions, but I think there's also sort of a general question. When you do a biennial budget, there is a reforecast moment as actuals and reality kind of hit projections. Will that be brought to us in a biennial process, or is that discretion we gave staff when you move to a biennial budget?
So two things. I think that's very good feedback on the first item. We have projects that are completed where funds cancel because they are no longer needed for the use for which they were permitted. But you're right, this is a bit of a different, a horse of a different color, if you will, that this is something that could be addressed in another way, and therefore the approved project and the approved intent was not necessary and could and should be canceled. And we modified the resolutions to include the reference to the cancellation instead of just doing that as a board update. But I do think that that is good feedback, that perhaps that should have been a separate discussion and a separate resolution in and of itself. Secondly, on the broader question about the biennial budget process, we are not like the state of Minnesota, or even really a municipality, where you have a need to update changes in expectations or assumptions about revenue coming in. We have very clear revenue boundaries. We do, I think collectively, we have said when we've done the biennial budget process previously, we are of a nature where if there's a private investment opportunity, a business that wants to come and establish in Rochester that needs support, and it's off of the neatness of a 2-year budget cycle, we would certainly want to consider that. If there is something that is very time-specific, some urgency that is demonstrated, we certainly have the capability to consider that. What we do want to do is have some rigor around a 2-year process that allows us to reassert our priorities around our public resources, and to have a discipline around that process, and to effectively use our staff capacity around a 2-year process. So we do want to have a discipline around a 2-year adopted budget, but without cutting off our nose to spite our face and to miss some really key strategic opportunities. So I'm not sure how helpful that feedback is, and if there is something more specific that you would want from us, but maybe our city representatives have some additional comments, because everything we vote on then goes to the city council as well for action, and maybe there's some additional insight that you have on that.
Well, what I would say, and reiterate what I said earlier regarding the issues, is that it just, from our standpoint, this is the first stage, and I know that Ms. Steinhauser and Ms. Carlson and Mr. Sieb all take the feedback from these meetings and bring them to the council, because we are going to ask the same questions and likely dig in even deeper on those, because when it comes to joint funds, that, you know, there is the DMC funds, but there are city funds, and that is hits our property tax base, and so we're going to be watchdogs even more so at the city level.
Member Norton?
Yeah, and I'll just add, I agree with that, and I think the yes and yes model complicates things. But the legislature in our discussions was very clear that the city ultimately has a decision. So everything comes to the council for the final vote. But also there was a lot of discussion about the value of having the EDA, but that the EDA alone isn't the only one that can make suggestions. The city, or anyone, frankly, could come forward and say, we think this should be part of your DMC district. And we haven't really explored that maybe as much as we could or should, and, you know, there's a lot of funding involved. But I think, you know, this issue of the budget and how we change it really plays into that a little bit. So, you know, it's not an easy thing to answer. This is a public-private partnership, if you will, or a public-public partnership with private, you know, partners. That's new and different, and we're learning it as we go. And I think we should use extreme care that the model that we are forwarding is one that can be successful, and it is using caution in how we budget, how we make decisions, who makes them. So I appreciate you raising this question. I don't have an exact answer, yay or nay, but I just, to the point that Council President Schubring said, they ultimately have the vote and the decision. I just hate that without good partnership all along the way, we could spin our wheels, spend money needlessly before it gets to the council and they say, wait a minute, this isn't what we want. So it's incumbent upon all of us in this room and people on the outside to work together, bring forward suggestions that we all agree with, and not wait until the end to find out you're on the wrong path. So just add that to the discussion.
Other comments? Patrick?
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. And Member Beckman, just to know, this is our first go at a 2-year budget, so we really are novices at it. City established a 2-year budget 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I've spoken with the city administrator in terms of the evolution of their experience with it, and as I understand, they are really looking for, they're very going to be only introducing, there's a very high bar of what they would be introducing as a recommendation for any modifications of their, of the city budget. Although I think their first go-around with it, there was probably more modifications in their second year. So, I mean, there is a discipline we're trying to develop and establish, and we did our best at trying to predict what a 2-year cycle would be. We did our best to try to create some constraints and guardrails so that we protect and reserve resources for the second decade of this initiative. So there was a lot of intentionality around creating the discipline. I appreciate the board's discussion around the integrity of that discipline and the expectation around that. I do appreciate your comment about the role the board ought to play in any decision about canceling something that had been received board approval, because we convinced you to approve it in the first place. So we owe it to you to weigh in on that, and regret that we didn't approach it that way. And I would say that you also asked us, when you established a 2-year budget, you also said, we want to be flexible enough that if something important came along, we weren't handcuffed to a rigid budget. And so you also anticipated the potential of something we didn't know about a year ago that could emerge. And so we understand that, and we understand there would be likely a very high bar associated with that, as sort of expressed during much of this conversation today. So I think what we also was referenced in the chair's earlier comments, we think that there is an opportunity with September and December to do a deep dive with this board in more of a discussion, more forecasting, vision casting, because it'll help us as staff, our city partners, and the community understand what will sit well with this board as the first yes in a yes and yes model. What would sit well with this board and give you a chance to feel more in control of the direction of this rather than reactionary or transactional in nature. So that's what we hope to accomplish over the next several meetings while we continue to manage the incredible amount of opportunity you've provided us and that we are attempting to deliver on as best as possible. So this conversation has been extraordinarily helpful. I appreciate the angst that was expressed and the sentiments and and reservations. And we take that to heart, and we will incorporate that into our work and in our thinking. We do our best to present to you things that we think are in alignment with your expressed vision and policies and priorities, and we will continue to do so.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left, and as you know, we tend to spend most of our time on action items and new approvals, and there is a significant amount of day-to-day work on things that have already been funded, already been approved, and those are in your updates at the end of your board book. I'd like to see if there are any items, comments, questions, observations that board members have on any of the capital project reports that are in your book. And I'll open it up. Member Williams?
Yeah, just, Madam Chair, just the housing projects, Civic Center North, Loom, Mayflower, West Transit Village. I know we've had some recent approvals at the state level, which were really critical, and I saw in the language there that there's also some extensions happening. So any kind of critical updates on any of those projects that are perhaps struggling or are still it looked like one had a May deadline, extension deadline. So just any updates on those. I think those are all wonderful projects and really important part of our agenda, obviously.
Thank you, and I think that's an important question and one that deserves a more complete answer than I could give. So I've asked my colleague Catherine Malmberg to join and provide an update not only on the projects that you all have been directly involved with, but other projects happening in our orbit.
Great, thank you so much. Happy to provide that update. So we have a lot going on. It's exciting news. There are 4 projects that this board has previously authorized DMC funding for, plus 1 additional that has received Main Street grant funding. So I'll start with those and then also let you know about a few other projects that are underway as well. So first off, the Aon first phase of West Transit Village is 75 units of senior affordable housing. At last quarter's meeting, we discussed that they had been successful in the latest round of MHFA funding, which is great news. And we are very excited that they are proceeding apace. I had the opportunity to recently meet their new president and CEO, Rachel Robinson, who is extremely excited about the Rochester opportunity. So excited that they are, in fact, already working on phase 2 out at West Transit Village and looking to apply in the July round of funding for that second phase, and that would be on the western edge of the West Transit Village site, and is targeting more larger family-scaled units, roughly 80 units on that side of the site, with the potential for a child care center in that project as well. So we might expect to see more from them in the future, but in the meantime, they are full steam ahead on looking to close the phase 1 project, hopefully by the end of the year, if not first quarter of 2027, to proceed with construction there. As you probably know, the ramp that is going to be wrapped by this housing is well underway and on schedule, so that will be in place when they commence construction. The second one is the 2nd Street Public Realm connection, the mid-block passageway on 2nd that breaks up that super block, that also triggers the development of a 140-ish unit market rate housing project and a 4-unit workforce for sale prototype in partnership with First Homes. And I'm excited to say that had the May deadline that I think you referenced, Member Williams, and they are underway on that site. So site has been cleared already and things are moving. So that's exciting news. The Civic Center North project with Sherman also has an upcoming deadline, and all signs are positive with that one as well. They are working in close collaboration with the City of Rochester and looking to begin construction by June. The next project is the Onward Investors Project, and that has an August 15 date. That project decided to shift their strategy and did not end up applying for bonds in January of this year, which was our expectation when we came to you near the end of last year with a requested extension to August 15th. So they are continuing to evaluate what their options could be, but I expect we may be coming back to you in next quarter's board meeting with a clarity of purpose around what is happening with that project. And so there may be the opportunity to reallocate those funds if they have not proceeded by that August 15th
Is that
deadline.
the Loon?
That is the
That-
Loom
okay, thank you,
project,
sir.
yes. Right, so that is one that I would maybe flag that is potential. They still have time to figure some things out, but August 15th is rapidly approaching. Then finally, the City Walk project, which did not receive DMCC allocated funds, but did receive a Main Street grant that the DMC EDA allocated to them. That project has closed on their equity and is imminently to close on their debt funding, and they are still anticipating construction to commence within a month or so. So that is exciting, over 340 units, plus the preservation of the naturally occurring affordable housing next door to it, directly across from Mayo's Unbound investment at 2nd and 6th. So those are the ones that we have talked about previously in terms of funding. But I also wanted to let you know some other projects that are happening in the DMC district or adjacent immediately in the downtown. First and Banks opened at the end of last year, 219 units right on Soldiers Field. It's a beautiful project. They are well into their leasing and have some good momentum there heading into summer. The Commons of Bear Creek,
Is that market rate, or can you just?
Yes, that is an entirely market rate project that did not receive any public subsidy.
Thank you.
Yep, but is immediately adjacent, I would note, to the investment in Soldiers Field. And we do think that is a amazing asset.
Yes,
for-
which we would hope and expect that private investment would follow public, so.
Yes. The Common at Bear Creek is 149 units that income averages to 60% AMI housing. That's at 4th Street Southeast. Lincoln Avenue Communities out of Pennsylvania is the developer for that one. They received a bond allocation and the city approved TIF. They are to start construction no later than July 31st of this year. So that's another exciting project there. The Klimt Apartments right along Discovery Walk, 80 units of market rate housing is proceeding. It's under construction. Arcadia Lofts is 133 units in Lower Town, so just east of North Broadway. And so it's just slightly outside the boundary of the DMC district, but still walkable to downtown. 66 of those units will be income restricted at or below 120% AMI. So adding all of those together, that's over 1,200 units. Maybe not all of them are going to proceed, but even if a good share of them does, that's a significant amount. And about 370 of those have income restrictions, so roughly 30%. And of those 370, about 150 are for the 55-plus community.
Just a follow-up comment, bravo. One, to have that mix is really important, to have the density is really important, and to be able to house the worker bees. Which is, I think, so important here in not only DMC, but in Rochester. So kudos to the city, I know is always, deeply involved in these, but also kudos to DMC and the collaborative that I know kind of makes these things happen, so.
Thank you.
So
Other projects, other update, I'm sorry, Catherine.
I just wanted to add just 2 upcoming items, if I could. So we have next Thursday, a week from today, our annual DMC Real Estate Investor Summit. So I invite everyone and the public as well to join us for that. It's going to be a really great day. We get a good sort of state of everything in the morning. We have a housing innovation panel, which I'm very excited to chair, and then in the afternoon, do some great tours out in the community where people get to see all of these projects. So that's happening next Thursday. This year it's being presented in conjunction with the Real Estate Journal. And then also there will be an update as part of that program on our housing innovation topic from last year, which is tech-enabled housing for aging in place, which is a partnership that many people have been working on since last year. UMR is also now a part of this as well, and that's a really exciting sort of prototype of how we might think differently about housing and aging in place, and could Rochester really be a leader in that area? So there'll be an update on that as well.
Great.
One comment I'll add on top of that. The national market has discovered Rochester, and City Council has been actively involved in entertaining annexation and other development proposals from Lennar, D.H. Horton. Am I saying that right? Pulte. Hundreds of units of single-family homes that are in play and under development now.
Fabulous. Thank you. Other projects, comments? I'll add just a couple of things. I noticed on the biolabs, it looks like there's great progress being made on the build-out of the space, and maybe a little slower on the hiring of the critical staff for that space, which probably shouldn't surprise me, but is there any comment, Patrick, that you would like to make about both the construction and the workforce?
Yeah, thank you. So biolabs, actively under construction. They are on schedule and probably ahead of schedule and on budget, set to open in September following commissioning of equipment. They are actively recruiting a site manager and a lab manager, and yes, there is a struggle in finding the right talent for that site manager position that matches our market, and so there's active work going on in that. We have, along with in association with Mayo Clinic, hired a chief staff person whose job is to recruit and help identify customers for biolabs. So that staff person started at the beginning of April and is moving quickly. So yes, we're building the staff pool for that, and yes, there is has been a bit of a challenge in filling that site manager position.
And then finally, I know that there are ongoing discussions about Chateau Theater, about operations, and I understand some discussion about capital opportunities.
Yes.
I just want to add that I know that this has been a significant, I think it's $12 million maybe of investment. I don't remember the number offhand, but that has occurred in a pretty landlocked, inflexible space, and I know that the city will take the lead on thinking about what's possible for that space. I think optimizing what that building is capable of is important, but I also feel like we are at the point where we are very seriously looking at competing economic opportunities and strategic opportunities, and I just want to express my own kind of reservations about how much more DMC funding might be a priority from my perspective about that. So modest and strategic is maybe my guiding words for that, and it doesn't call for a response, but I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, I'm going to note that the next regular meeting is September 24th at 9:30 here again at Mayo. And we will be convening right across the hall for the collaborative joint meeting with our other municipal and EDA colleagues. And I want to thank the staff and the EDA board and acknowledge again the outgoing chair for all of the work to continue to help us advance our mission and our priorities. So thank you again, and we'll see you in a bit, and then maybe not a lot of you during the summer. So have a great summer.
Thank you.
Oh, do we have to, I'm sorry, we need to move for an adjournment, yes.
So move, second.
Second, will you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman?
Aye.
Norton?
Aye.
Schubring?
Aye.
Tyne?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
And Chair Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you. Now we're adjourned.